CarMax? I wanted to experience what it was like to buy a CarMax car, and I can't tag them because I'm blocked. I just want to show you. I had to bring my car back in again and again and now again because I'm waiting for a tow truck again.
Hey CarMax, let's talk about how you sold me a 2014 Subaru for $15,000 less than 9 months ago, and now it's already undrivable and needing a new transmission and a new engine.
The world keeps getting more and more short-lived trends, but some trends never go away. One of them is secondhand, clothes, furniture, and especially cars. Millions of Americans still see buying a used car as a great deal, and they believe Carvana and CarMax are the best places to get one. But if you think that too, you are wrong. They promise reliable cars, quality inspections, full warranties, and most importantly, low prices. But take a look at what is really happening in 2026. Thousands of customers who bought used cars from Carvana and CarMax are complaining, and quite a few people are returning the cars they just bought there because those cars started having all kinds of problems as soon as they came off the delivery truck or after only a few days on the road. So what is going on? Today, come with me as we find out why used cars from Carvana and CarMax are being returned in such large numbers. I am going to give you 3 reasons why they are not a bargain, but a debt. At the end of the video, I will also give you a guide to help you avoid falling into this trap. Watch this right now before you become another Carvana or CarMax customer full of regret.
If you are trying to buy a car in 2026 and don't necessarily know that much about cars and always feel like the car buying experience is such a big task, I would recommend you go to CarMax.
Everybody assumes that if you want to buy a used car, Carvana and CarMax are the 2 names you can trust the most. Well, count me out. After the last 2 videos, you probably understand why more and more people no longer believe a new car will give them a few peaceful years. They cost more, but that does not necessarily mean they last longer. Every new model comes with more software sensors, electronic modules, and complicated systems that most drivers never even asked for. Just one part failing can leave the whole car sitting in a repair shop. We have seen nearly new cars need engine replacements, transmission repairs, or repeated trips back to the dealership without ever getting fully fixed. And while the car is not running, the monthly payment insurance and rental car costs still keep coming due. I know what you are thinking. If new cars are expensive and risky, then just buy used, and I am not against that. I still drive a 2006 Honda Accord LX with a 4-cylinder engine. It is almost 20 years old. The paint does not look great anymore. The driver's seat is worn out and it does not have a big screen, but every morning it still starts. So when my neighbor's son asked whether he should buy a used car from Carvana or CarMax, I understood why those were the only 2 places he had in mind. Carvana is convenient. CarMax has been around for a long time. Both say their cars have been inspected and both give customers time to return them. But in 2026, a used car no longer automatically means cheap or safe. You could pay almost the price of a new car for something that has already had several owners finance it for 6 or 7 years, and then discover problems that the history report and inspection process completely missed. And the risk does not show up in just one place. It can be in the car and the contract during the first few days of ownership, and even after you decide to keep it. Let us get to the first issue. Hundreds of used car buyers at Carvana and CarMax are complaining about problems with the car itself. The first reason I do not see a used car from Carvana or CarMax as a bargain is very simple. The car may already have problems before the keys ever reach your hand. And this is the most frustrating thing about buying a used car from these 2 companies. Used cars do not break down on the buyer's schedule. A problem can show up after 1 hour, after 3 weeks, or after you have already taken the car back to the shop several times. Let us start with a video every car buyer should see. A family had just taken delivery of a Cadillac from Carvana. They had barely started driving when the brakes began smoking. The people there did not even know whether the problem was with the brakes, the engine, or the transmission. All they knew was that the car had just been delivered and was already no longer something they could trust to keep driving, all within 1 hour. My neighbor's son probably would not even have had time to adjust the seat or find the nearest gas station, and the car was already smoking. When a car has barely come off the trailer and already has its new owner wondering whether the brakes, engine, or transmission is failing, I do not care how many boxes were checked on the inspection list. The car just gave us the answer itself. But a problem showing up right away may not even be the worst case. At least that Cadillac warned the buyer while they still had a chance to turn back. This woman bought a used car from Carvana, and unlike the first case, her car did not start having problems until some time had passed. She had to pay nearly $2,000 out of her own pocket for repairs, even though she had traded in a Toyota Corolla that was described as running well and had just gotten a new battery. After Carvana left a public comment asking her to send them a message, the buyer said she still had to handle everything herself. At least the Cadillac was polite enough to start smoking early. This car waited 3 weeks, long enough for the buyer to believe everything was fine and long enough for the original return window to be a lot less helpful. That is what you need to remember. No problems during the first few days does not mean the car is good. It only means the problem did not show up during those first few days. The transmission may not start slipping until it gets hot enough. The air conditioning may only reveal a problem on a summer day. A small leak may take a few hundred miles to become obvious. A sensor may work when the car is delivered and trigger a warning later. A part near the end of its life may hold on for a few more days before failing completely. And I came across another complaint from a CarMax buyer. She said she had already taken the car back several times. She had also contacted the department responsible for handling the issue, but the problem still had not been resolved. By the third tow truck call, you no longer own transportation. You are financing a regular customer at the repair shop. You see the problem here, right? One car gave a warning almost immediately, another waited until the buyer's way out was almost gone, and the last one kept going back to the shop but still would not leave its owner alone. But now I have a question. If cars like these went through inspections with more than 125 or 150 points, how did those problems still make it all the way to the customer's driveway? Carvana says its Carvana certified vehicles go through a 150-point inspection that includes tires, brakes, and wear parts. CarMax says its retail vehicles become CarMax certified after an inspection with more than 125 points. The problem is not that they do not inspect the cars at all. The problem is that buyers may be reading far too much into the words inspected. A big number sounds reassuring, but it does not tell you how deeply each item was inspected, how worn a part has to be before it fails the inspection, or how much life it still has left after the delivery date. I once heard a mechanic share a story about inspecting a 2020 Chevrolet Trax with around 47,000 miles. He said the car had 17 fault codes in the body control module, new brake pads paired with old rotors, and a leaking air conditioner. 17 fault codes do not mean 17 parts are all about to fail. But we have every right to ask how thoroughly that car was inspected and repaired before it was delivered. Remember, the number of check marks on a piece of paper matters less than the standard used to mark the car as passed. And here is the part many buyers never think about: finding a problem and deciding to fix it are two different things. Inspection means finding the problem. Reconditioning means deciding which problems will be fixed, how far the repairs will go, and how much the company is willing to spend. New brake pads with old rotors are an easy example. The rotors may still be within technical limits. That may not violate any standard, but buyers are not paying a higher price to get a system that barely clears the minimum limit. Good enough to sell and good enough to own are two completely different standards. A car that is good enough to sell may start drive around the lot and show no obvious safety issue during the inspection. But you're not buying that car just so it can make one lap around the lot, are you? And that is not all. Even if the car runs fine, there is still one thing no reconditioning process can rewrite its past. A vehicle history report only shows what was reported. Carvana itself notes that Carfax and AutoCheck data comes from information provided by many different sources, and some events may never have been recorded. So no accidents reported is not the same as the car has never been in an accident. Remember that. A history report only knows what was entered into the system. It cannot see a crash that was repaired with cash damage underneath the car, or what a fresh coat of paint may be hiding. Now look at everything buyers are being asked to gamble on. They have to hope the problem does not show up after the return window closes. Hope the inspection was thorough enough. Hope the reconditioning did more than the bare minimum. And hope the car's past was fully recorded. All it takes is one of those things being wrong for the bargain to turn into a repair bill. But let us say you get lucky. The car runs well, does not leak oil, and does not turn on any warning lights. You still may not have gotten a bargain, because even a good car can be sold at a terrible price.
This time around, though, has been like a nightmare. Like, I literally just got my car yesterday, right? It has been in the shop for a month straight. Engine issues. They replaced my turbo. They gave me a brand new turbo. I picked it up yesterday, and as of today, my check engine light is already on.
The second reason I can confidently tell you that used cars from Carvana and CarMax are not bargains comes down to the price itself. A lot of these cars are more than 10 years old, yet they are still listed at prices that make me stop and check whether I read the number wrong. And the sticker price is only the beginning of the problem. Once interest, a long loan term, extra fees, and negative equity all get thrown into the mix, an ordinary used car can turn into a debt that follows you until the car is nearly 20 years old. The first problem is, right there on the price tag, a lot of used cars are being sold for far more than their age and actual condition justify. Take a look at a 2015 Toyota Corolla with around 54,000 miles listed for nearly $19,000. The Corolla has a strong reputation for reliability, but this car still has flaws in the paint, and its outside condition does not make it look like much reconditioning was done. I'm not going to argue with anybody about whether a Corolla can last a long time. I drive a Honda Accord that is almost 20 years old, so I understand the value of a Japanese sedan that has been properly cared for. But a reliable model does not mean every price attached to it makes sense. One viewer said they once bought a new Corolla from the same model year for around $20,000. That is just one person's experience, not the average price across the United States. But it explains why a lot of longtime drivers have a hard time accepting a used Corolla priced at nearly $19,000. The second problem starts when that high price gets rolled into a long loan. A car that is already overpriced can become unbelievably expensive once the APR kicks in. Then taxes, fees, gap coverage, and extended warranty, and sometimes even debt from the old trade-in all get added to the contract. Honestly, I have a friend who works at Carvana, and he told me he has seen customers accept APRs from 15% to 27% to buy Land Rovers or other foreign cars that were already around 6 years old. He once stopped a customer from trading a Honda Accord for a Range Rover because both the loan and the repair costs were just too risky. This is one person's experience, and it does not represent every Carvana customer, but it shows how badly the appeal of a certain car can push buyers into accepting dangerous terms. You could be one of them. It shows just how expensive an already overpriced car can become once double-digit interest starts piling up. And I have to talk about the monthly payment. Honestly, that may be the easiest thing to fool buyers with. You ask how much the car will cost each month, and the seller stretches the loan from 5 years to 6 or 7 years to make the number look easier to handle. But a longer loan does not make the car cheaper. It only makes you pay interest longer. The bank is not giving you a discount on the car. They are just cutting the bill into smaller pieces. Then the third problem shows up. The debt goes down more slowly than the value of the car. Let us say you still owe $22,000, but the car could only sell for $16,000. That $6,000 gap does not just disappear. You either have to pay the difference out of pocket or roll it into the next loan. That is negative equity. It does not just cost you money, it traps you in the deal you are trying to escape. You are not only carrying the old car into the new contract, you are carrying the old debt with it. And think about the age of the car. A car that is already 10 or 12 years old can still be financed for another 6 or 7 years. By the time you finish paying it off, it could be 17, 18, or 19 years old. During that time, the air conditioning, cooling system, suspension, transmission, or electrical components may all need repairs one after another. And at that point, a lot of people still comfort themselves by saying that at least the car has a warranty. But seeing the word warranty on a contract and actually getting someone to pay the repair bill are two completely different things. And this is the final reason a used car from Carvana or CarMax stops being a bargain and turns into a debt. Trust me, you have probably already noticed this reason, but you may be trying to ignore it. It is when the car breaks down and the warranty you trusted to protect you does not make everything quick and simple the way you expected. When buyers sign the contract, they often reassure themselves that the car has been inspected, there is a return window, and it comes with a warranty. If something goes wrong, they think they can just take it to a shop and wait for somebody else to pay. But the time between a mechanic finding the problem and the car finally returning to your driveway can mean weeks of phone calls, waiting for approval, and paying out of pocket to find another way to get around. I once read a complaint from a CarMax buyer. Their car could not be used for nearly 40 days. The paperwork was submitted fairly early, but the first approval still took around 2.5 weeks. After the shop took the engine apart and inspected it, they found another failed component. The next approval took about another 1.5 weeks. While waiting, the buyer spent around $1,700 on a rental car, but according to their account, the coverage only paid for 7 days. Nearly 40 days without a car. That is no longer a normal repair. That is more than a month of trying to get to work, buy groceries, and take your kids to school, while the payment on the car sitting in the shop still comes due right on time. The first problem is that buyers hear the word warranty and assume anything that breaks will be fixed for free. But warranties do not work that way. Coverage depends on which part failed, what caused the failure, and whether the repair claim process was followed correctly. A part may be considered normal wear. The shop may need permission before taking anything apart or making repairs. The warranty company may ask for maintenance records, photos, fault codes, and diagnostic results before agreeing to pay. A warranty is not a promise that everything that breaks will be fixed for free. It is a contract that decides which failures are covered and which ones are still your problem. Remember that. The second problem is that the place that sold you the car may not be the place with the power to approve the repair bill. You call the seller. They send you to the warranty company. The warranty company tells the shop to diagnose the car. The shop sends photos and an estimate, then says it is waiting for approval. If something is missing, the claim goes around for another round. I also read another complaint from a Carvana buyer. The car needed nearly $3,000 in repairs. The shop had to send more than 40 photos to Silver Rock before the claim could be processed. The buyer had only driven the car for about 2 days, but it had already been sitting in the shop for nearly 1 week. And here's the most painful part: the car may stop running, but every cost of owning it keeps going. You still have to pay the loan insurance, the deductible towing, and rental car costs. If you do not have convenient public transportation, you may even lose work hours simply because you have no way to get there. The bank does not pause your payment because the car is sitting on a lift. The insurance company does not skip the bill because the shop is waiting for approval. So if you still want to buy a used car from Carvana CarMax or anywhere else, what do you need to do to avoid becoming the next person making payments, calling the repair shop, and waiting for a tow truck all at the same time? The answer starts before you sign the contract. I am going to give you a guide to help you avoid this trap. But if I ended the video here, I would feel guilty. I just spent most of this video explaining why you should think twice about buying a car from these two companies, but simply telling you not to buy one without showing you what to do next does not help anybody. You still need a car to get to work. Maybe you already found the exact model, color, and mileage you want, so I am not saying you have to avoid Carvana or CarMax at all costs. I am saying buying a new car already requires caution, and buying a used car requires twice as much. If you already like a specific car at Carvana or CarMax, start by researching that exact model year, that exact engine, and that exact transmission. Do not just search. Is a Toyota Camry reliable? One Camry model year may be excellent, while another may use an engine or transmission that has drawn a lot of complaints. You're not buying the name of a model. You are buying that exact car from that exact year with that exact powertrain. Then get the VIN and check the history, the number of previous owners where the car was registered, any open recalls, and any unusual gaps in the records. Most importantly, schedule an inspection with an independent mechanic as soon as you receive the car. Do not spend those first few days showing it off to your neighbors. Use that time to find every possible reason you may need to return it. Ask the mechanic to put it on a lift, scan every system, and check for leaks, frame damage, brake condition, tire condition, and signs of collision repair. Then drive it yourself around town on the highway with the engine cold. And again, after the car is fully warmed up, you also need to inspect the deal as carefully as you inspect the car. Ask for the final price and writing check with your own bank or credit union about the interest rate, and calculate the total amount you will pay instead of only looking at the monthly payment. Read the shipping fees, deductible warranty, and refund terms carefully. Any promise to make repairs needs to be put in writing. If you decide to buy somewhere else, the first option I would look at is a manufacturer-certified pre-owned vehicle from a franchise dealership. It is not perfect, but it usually comes with clearer standards, a warranty backed by the manufacturer, and a dealership network standing behind it. After that, I would look at established local dealerships that are willing to provide records and let you take the car for an independent inspection. Buying from a private owner can also be a good option if they have complete maintenance receipts, a clear title, and are willing to let your mechanic inspect the car. That is also what I told my neighbor's son. Do not choose Carvana CarMax or any dealership just because of the brand name. Choose a reliable model, find the right individual car, have it inspected by a mechanic who has no financial interest in the deal, and then decide whether the total cost actually fits your life. A good used car can still be the smartest way to save money, but you only get that benefit when you are twice as careful before you buy instead of paying twice the price after you buy. Things are getting tougher whether you buy a new car or a used one. Honestly, buying a car these days is a real headache. But here is something you should remember: whether you buy used or new, do not buy just because of the brand, the advertising, or a famous name. And never buy a car you have not seen in person, driven and carefully checked from the body, undercarriage, brakes, and tires to the engine bay and the entire electrical system inside. I hope this video helps you come up with your own answer, and I hope my neighbor's son does too. If you found today's video helpful, subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next video, and I hope you have a great day.